Welcome everybody, it's the final day of the CRO race, and after a spectacular win yesterday, which you've just seen from Aular, it leaves us with the none too small matter of a trip around Zagreb. Quite a technical finale, to be honest, lots of turns. At least they'll get a few previews of it at the very last, and a flat approach. I've got to tell you that our breakaway today is not going to trouble the King of the Mountains jersey competition, because those that are involved look like now they have indeed settled the journey, and it looks like it's going to go to Jonas Rapp. So King Tomislav Square, our departure point today, but let's have a look at yesterday, shall we? See how we set ourselves up for this. Well, there's to be plenty of altitude gain, but all of it absolutely lumped at the beginning of the day. There seemed to be no hurry at all yesterday to set off and indeed take on the climbs. Well, once they were dealt with, 3 intermediate sprints opened up. Jonas Rapp, though, had taken the King of the Mountains jersey on that Category 1 test, and in fact, it looks like that is going to stay indeed with him. One man was strongest of all within the group, however, and it was Miholjevic. And when he took the bell to announce the final lap, he had a modest gap. It would have been a good old chase, I must say, by Uno X. They were hoping to tee something up for themselves on this day. Didn't quite work out for Alexander Christoph, however, unfortunately. And the looming yellow jersey there just coming through, not of our leader, but of the Venezuelan champion. And all eyes were, well, elsewhere, quite frankly. He's gone very well, Aular, in this race. But how well would he finish on the final day? Or the penultimate day, I should say. Well, Ineos Grenadiers were trying to tee up beautifully Magnus Sheffield. Unfortunately, he got himself out of shape. So, indeed, did a few others. Our red jersey wearer also taking himself a bit of a tumble, I'm afraid. Magnus Sheffield, race leader, was not to be for him. Just misguided and coming into some street furniture and elevated curbstone. And then this drive for the line. When Aular hit the barriers at this point, we assumed he'd run out of juice, but he held on and indeed held off a fast finishing Alexander Christoph. Ethan Hayter was there, the chosen son. I guess they'll have to recalibrate today and hope to drive for Hayter after Sheffield took himself a nasty tumble. But the barriers have spoken, and indeed so has Aular. He's here as a winner. That's great. So Aulas Aular, wearing the yellow jersey here of his national champions of Venezuela, is our leader. Absolutely spectacular. He emerged yesterday into Osalj as not amongst the favourites, I must say, for what was a less than complicated script that turned complicated, I guess, to his advantage. Well, he's done that before, almost, in La Vuelta, finishing behind Jeffrey Soup in stage 7 of that. Now he takes that extra step forward. And when he looks at the results, he beat Christoph, he beat Ethan Hayter, beat Viviani, Tobias Lund. He can be very proud of what he's achieved. And not only the stage win, but the lead of this race. He wears the red jersey. So swapping his national Venezuelan champions kit for that. Let's hope we come to the final day. And the question is, who's going to stop him? Well, they'll try their level best to do precisely that. Here is the stage classification for you. Aular taking it, as we've said, ahead of Christoph, Hayter, Viviani and Tobias Lund. And he leads Aular by 9 seconds ahead of Ethan Hayter and Magnus Sheffield. So it's between those two. It's a sprint finish today, so Ethan Hayter has to be the favourite. He needs to win it, Hayter, take the 10 bonus seconds and hope that Aular is nowhere to be found. Aular, of course, will be absolute. Well, it'll be a split decision really for him who to follow, if indeed Hayter and Sheffield follow different paths on the road. So who do Ineos Grenadier support? That's the question. This is what we're dealing with today. Here's your terrain. No lumps at the end, which I'm a bit disappointed about, I must admit, because I love the hilly finish in Zagreb. But a different scenario for us. There you are. Looks like a tuning fork that we're dealing with. Well, we'll be going around it on 3 full laps of 5 kilometres apiece. So each of them, as you've seen, an awful lot of 90-degree turns to the left along the way. Well, they set off earlier on today with a none too small matter of 158 kilometres to be completed, and they assume the fastest pace of the day, 48 kilometres per hour. Just waiting to catch up and deliver the break for you in a short while. But how will it settle down? Well, some lovely scenery. And the Keristinek Castle. Just one of many that we've been admiring throughout the day. Just waiting to catch up with our live pictures. I can tell you that we have ourselves a breakaway, and it's a reasonably strong one, but does not include anyone who's in the battle for the King of the Mountains jersey. And so it's Travis Steadman who's up there for Q365. Matthias Kostanski of Vosta ATS. We also have Martin Pedersen of Lidl Trek, Aleš Turk of Adrimobil, and indeed Mario Gamper of Santic Vibertech. One can only assume that this is going to be controlled until the very last by the quick men's teams. And here is our breakaway. Indeed, this is not our breakaway, I beg your pardon. So we just had some sound issues which we've been dealing with. This looks like a bit of a skirmish going on at the moment, and this will be, I think this was earlier on today, for the first of the intermediate sprints. Bonus seconds therein, and Ethan Hayter taking 2 bonus seconds. Alexander Kristoff taking the 3 there. So this was good news for Ethan Hayter. 2 bonus seconds added to his tally puts him at 7 seconds down overall, with the first of the intermediate sprints completed. A second sprint will be coming up with 87 kilometres to go, but Ethan Hayter getting some vital bonus seconds there to add to his tally, or indeed trim off his tally, I should say. Hayter will have high hopes. Kristoff himself comes down to 9 seconds down, so he will possibly move into third place depending on his victory if he gets one later on today. So here is your breakaway. Travis Steadman, the South African champion, has made it up the roads. So has Mario Gamper of Santic Vibertech. He's nearest to us. We also see that Lidl Trekker in the frame here with Martin Pedersen. We're hoping to get something out of today. It's been thin pickings for Lidl Trek here. Tim Tom Teutenberg is the best placed, I guess, for them as far as sprints are concerned. Abra Story will be busy helping him out. Here's your pump track. Think BMX and just throwing your handlebars at the concrete. That's the idea. Just get yourself a little bit of impetus. But yeah, just a reminder that cycling is for everybody, and indeed in all its different forms. Rather nice. The Crow race, the final day. Well, we've had a bit of action already with our first intermediate sprint. You're looking at our breakaway, which is in fine style, I must say. We've got some more than decent riders up here. Q365 from Pro Cycling Team. We've got Travis Steppen, the South African champion, and he will be, well, he's on the nose at the moment. He'll be working to make sure Parasini has a good chance a little bit later on today. Also joining the fray here for Vosta ATS is Kostanski. They've been busy in the break on a number of occasions. Started short-handed and have got even more short-handed. Only 3 in their team remaining after a couple left the party yesterday. Chase at the moment is being invoked by Uno X Pro Cycling. Alexander Kristoff got himself up for the intermediate sprint, the first of them, which came very quickly today. So the breakaway only formed after we'd actually gone through the opening 3 kilometres. Didn't take long for us to get to that sprint. And in so doing, Wallace Auloir, who was missing from it, he tried to get involved in the intermediate, but just did not quite get up for it. And so the gap that he holds over everybody else has been narrowed. Ethan Hayter finished second, so he gets 2 bonus seconds. And that means that he closes to within 7 seconds of Auloir. Kristoff himself won it. He was on 12 seconds deficit, so he's now down to 9 seconds, sharing that space, I believe, with Magnus Sheffield. So a bit of chit-chat going on, and this is a battle plan that you're seeing being worked out at the moment. That's Josh Tarling talking to Ethan Hayter, and it'll be about lead-ins and who's going to be supporting who and how it's going to work. Eli Viviani there, number 13, will be essentially the super lead-out man for Ethan Hayter, I imagine, today. That seems the best option for Ineos Grenadiers. It's going to be complicated. Magnus Sheffield wearing the Young Riders jersey. He was in red yesterday until he crashed, unfortunately, at the very last, but it was within the last 3K, so he didn't lose any time. But the day was won by Auloir, and here he is, our overall leader. Well, I hope you've been listening, because that's how we stack up. It's been a busy start. Pippa York, this man, Auloir, will be under a bit of pressure now.
I'm glad you explained all that, because I kind of got lost in the action from the start. Yeah, it's been a kind of complicated start to things. Why CRO didn't try and put Auloir up there to take some bonus seconds, I don't know. It seemed a kind of strange decision to have made, because now, Kristoff and Hayter come into the GC probably if they win the stage and the others don't get any bonus seconds, then potentially they can win. So they're back in the game now, and we haven't even got to the other bonus sprint. So
well, we've been through the second. We haven't seen it yet, but it will have been hoovered up by our breakaway, so it's of little importance. There's still another intermediate sprint to be taken, and in fact we'll be getting to that by the time we're on the circuit at the end of the day. We do have a mountains classification, however, minute and 20, and our climb begins with 51 kilometres to go. It's only a category 3 today, so 3 very modest pickings at the top, points-wise. And unless our breakaway is going to be caught, I'm afraid that mountains jersey is going to go onto the shoulders. I'm not afraid, I'm pleased for him, of yesterday's, the man who took yesterday's mountain finish, not mountain top I should say, the category 1, which was out of the back door, and that was Jonas Rapp. So Jonas Rapp looks secure in that jersey for Team Rinkov. Who wants it, and who wants to chase it down to contest that modest climb?
I can't imagine it's going to be anybody that's actually capable of doing it. So there's only 2 riders involved, Rapp and Shuran. Shuran's team could potentially start to chase this down, but I can't see them, I can't see it happening. They don't really have the collective to do that. So
the team is ATT Investments, isn't it? Michael Shuran. I don't think they've got the power.
They haven't got the power. They haven't got enough riders left or something. So they've had 2 abandons already. So they don't really have the manpower to do it. Rapp certainly he's not going to put his team on the front because he doesn't want to have to do the sprint. So the less work, the better for them.
Indeed.
The only way that kind of change anything is if the World Tour teams decide they're going to take this back, and they're not going to commit to anything until they get to within time those bonus sprints.
Here's the bumps and bruises for Magnus Sheffield. He's giving us the I'm okay, nothing to see here apart from some scratches on my elbows. Yesterday it looked there was a little dip, a dropped pavement, and by the time he made the turn to get onto that dropped pavement, which had already been taken by Luke Rowe, I'm afraid he got it very wrong. He ran out of dropped pavement, hit the curb, and down he went a bit too hard. He was lucky it came so late, so he didn't lose too much time. He's still in the frame, but the focus must have changed at Ineos Grenadiers to Ethan Hayter, and they've shown that in the sprint.
Yep, absolutely. I think Magnus Sheffield got influenced by Luke Rowe bunny hopping the pavement because he was involved in the kind of lead up, so he wanted to get out of the way. And when riders tend to do that, they'll go as far away from the other riders as they can. So Luke will hopped onto the pavement, and I imagine that the race leader came round the same corner. I thought, I'll do that, and got it slightly wrong and ended up on the ground. But he doesn't look too unhappy.
No.
But I can't imagine that he's that pleased with the kind of embarrassment of doing that.
Well, in the race leader's jersey as well, which was something of a shame. So this is how we stack up with 73.5 kilometres from home. Here's Q365. Now, they've kept themselves quite quiet. Parasini yesterday did not contest the sprint in the same sort of fashion as the day he'd taken his win on Thursday into Opataya. Finished 10th, but it was very cramped, wasn't it? Late turn, crashes going on as well. That affects everyone's focus. I think they'll be up for this today, quite frankly, because the way Parasini rides, he'd probably prefer a dirty, great big downhill, leading us to a highly technical finale, which he's not going to get. It's reasonably technical, but it's well previewed and no descent.
I'm sensing a bit of disappointment in your pick for yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. I've been banging on about Aular. I drifted to Parasini, and it was my mistake. I should have stuck with my man, but Aular today is our leader. What about this breakaway? It's not bad. It's got some strength about it.
It's got some strength, and terrain's not too hard, so it shouldn't fall apart in the same way that the other breaks have fell by the wayside just because the terrain's so hard to ride. At a constant speed in the front. It's almost all flat today. There's no real challenges, so it's going to be a case of pulling back the brake and not kind of waiting for them to self-destruct.
Well, let's see. This is Glyvar from AT&T Investments. Not quite sure why we're hoving in on the poor chap. But
he had been wearing the white jersey yesterday, so...
That's true. He's from Adri Mobile, I beg your pardon. Well, what are Adri Mobile going to get out of the day? They've got Alaj Turk, who's up the road at the moment. Let's see how the rest of them function. You're a committee, they've been committed almost by aptly named, I would say. Supposed to be for Eric Vetter overall. He is actually in 8th place, and he's only 17 seconds down. There's a lot of riders very close together, and that's indicative of a race that has been a bit sprinty.
Yes, it's not been too selective, so it's going to come down to those bonus seconds, and if you're involved in the kind of pointy end of the last couple of uphill sprints that we've had, but they haven't been really that difficult enough to split the race completely. So it's like a lot of modern races, it comes down to seconds instead of minutes, and gaps that you can do with a proper timer than instead of just like need a stopwatch almost to separate these guys.
71.3 kilometres to go. They've got a fair old lick on them at the moment. I'm just going to try and work out whether we're up on our fastest predicted pace today, which was actually declared at 48 kilometres an hour. I think we're probably around that. Local time, it's 13:20 coming up to right now. So yes, we are indeed on our fastest time. We've been through in fact above it. Eddie Dunbar, I think he needed more climbing in this race in order to shine as brightly as we know he can. He's not a great time of things, but the focus for them, I think, will be on Campbell Stewart today. Campbell got completely boxed out of it yesterday. A few did, including Alexander Kristoff himself. He just couldn't find a way through that Al Loire did.
Yeah,
so let's see.
It was one of those sprints, there's room for a small one coming through.
That's right, exactly. It's like pushing to the back of the bus, isn't it? Yeah, something I've never been able to do.
There was a bit of kind of bunching it, boring and banging about, kind of leading into it until Ineos pounced and took it up at about 3Ks to go.
Yeah.
But even then, they still messed it up. So everybody was kind of fresh. There was that really strange hesitation for about the last 10Ks where there was a big battle for that small road, and then everything calmed down. We didn't really kind of see why everybody kind of waited up, and then suddenly, everybody pounced, and World Tour team still messed up.
He's a happy man. No surprise. Jonas Rapp. Big old smile on his face. Brake's done a job for him. Just looking at the king. No, not Kelly. It's the king of the mountains here. And it is Jonas Rapp. Now, there was a possibility with one categorised 3 climb today that he might be under pressure. But the breakaway's gone off up the road. They are going to hit the climb, no doubt about it. They've got 1:24. It would take a concerted effort by the rivals of Rapp to actually come through. But Jonas Rapp from Team Rinkhoff Adva will be the king of the mountains. So he swaps one shade of green for another.
He is using the green of Ireland. So Sean Kelly would have been proud of that colour.
He certainly would have been.
It does fade into the rest of the kind of team line-up there quite well. So they won't have too much difficulty of finding where he is.
Shame that we didn't have that little skirmish. But there's an awful lot of cycling as well going on at the moment. Let's just remind you. Tour de Vendée is happening right now. There's the Ardennes Classic Feminin also this weekend, and don't forget we've got mountain biking going on as well from snowshoe in the United States, the Olympic cross country men and women. It's all kicking off. Here, not quite so. We haven't really had a breakaway success. It's always been well timed, the chase, and I suggest that today might be something pretty similar. They're going to be eyeballing each other in the last 15 kilometres, because if you're in a break, then you're going to be able to look into the eyes of those who are chasing you, and vice versa. Obviously through the sunglasses that they're all wearing today, because we've had exceptional weather in this race. It's been lovely. I always like to see Brian Coquard doing a decent job of things. He's full of joy, that man, when he wins. And these days, quite contrite when he doesn't as well. He used to be very prickly, but he's softened. It happens with age. 90 seconds only is the gap. We've got 67 kilometres of the day remaining. We're speculating as to who's going to be up for it today. I think more teams than perhaps you would conjure with normally are going to want to get something out of today, because a good finish, we mentioned Eric Vetter for Eurocometa. They're in 8th place at the moment. They'd quite like a top 5, thank you very much. And so why not skirmish for it? It's probably a long shot, but they definitely want to hold on to a top 10. And there'll be others that think pretty similar, that they've got a good position, that they don't want to mess up.
And nobody's going to have an excuse, given the circuit's kind of up one side of the road and round and back again. So. Yep. It's not like you're not going to know where the finish is to today. There's no real kind of technicalities to it. Just
true enough.
Kind of, it's almost as if you turn around an oil drum at the end of the road and come back again. So I can imagine in that kind of case, it's last of the late breakers into the corners.
An oil drum. What beaten in with some holes and some chestnuts. Go around the chestnut man.
It's that time of the year. You know, it gets cold in the evenings.
I've noticed the horse chestnuts knocking around in the UK, absolutely. So yeah, sweet chestnuts, why not? I do love a chestnut, I must admit. I don't know why, because it's pretty bland stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Usually with men with fingerless gloves that look like they could do with a shower. But anyway, 92 seconds only with 66 kilometres to go. Today, again, absolutely beautiful. And if you were hoping for wind, and secretly I was very much hoping for wind, forget it. 3 kilometres an hour. The only reason those flags are there is because they're pinned.
It's because the helicopter's gone over above their heads.
No, they're not moving. They're absolutely static. Everything is. Except for the ambition of this man. What can Aular do today? If he's going to hold on, he's got to have another good sprint, hasn't he?
He's got to finish in the first 3.
Yep.
You know, that's the kind of reality of it. They're capable of doing that, absolutely. You know, he's got Leto to lead them out if they have to commit to that. You know, it's not theirs to lose. You know, the other guys have to come and take it from them. But in the position that Aular finds himself in, his options are good.
Yep. Well, there you are, as we come by the maize fields here. Some of the maize, apparently, is not fit for human consumption. Other maize is. There's different varieties. I didn't know this. Some of it's grown for animal feed, and so they grows quicker and doesn't have the same sweetness. There we are. Learnt this from Sean Kelly. Also learnt the difference between haylage and silage.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah. I don't know.
From being involved with people with horses. Haylage is different. It's
Slightly
it's more fermented.
More fermented, yeah.
Yeah, it's more smelly, basically.
There you go.
So
Who thought that hay could be like cheese?
So hay is different from straw, and straw is different from haylage and silage. So they're all different.
Well, you learn something every day, and some things you learn are of no use whatsoever.
Which is probably why we know most of them.
Yes, exactly. What have we done with it? Good work here by UNOX, but I always fear when they put in this much effort. They're determined. Clearly, Alexander Kristoff said, look, I feel fantastic. Everyone else is possibly feeling a bit edges knocked off. So if you wouldn't mind, make it as hard as you possibly can, and we'll see how we go. There's the pothole that the motorcycle hit. I was thinking, a sleeping policeman, and I couldn't see one. And then suddenly the pothole that the motorcycle went through was right there. Usually get a yelp from a cameraman who quite often is not aware, and sometimes they operate on braces, so it's like a metal pole that they can lean on. Sometimes they can stand and lean on it with their torso, and if that happens, they end up singing alto at the end of the evening.
The thing is, they're facing backwards as well, which
it can be, yeah.
If you've already been on the back of a motorbike, isn't it the most relaxing experience? Facing backwards, I can't imagine what that feels like. I wouldn't really want to do that for very far. Certainly not down an alpine pass at the speed that those guys do.
Aero helmet for Kristoff, I notice. He is absolutely dialed in today. It's he that's called for this pace.
It is. So you imagine he's got the full speed suit on, and he's pulled his aero socks up as far as they'll go, because all those little advantages matter nowadays.
Absolutely, even if it's only a psychological thing for your enemies. Aero's one thing, but I always wonder why certain riders just decide to go for a whole load of gold chains and medallions around their neck as well. Bit of bangle dangle just to sort of take. Maybe they go aero, which allows them to wear it.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that can tell us that the disrupting of the airflow by that dangling chain is some kind of benefit.
I think it's just psychological. Did you have any mantras when you rode? Did you do things that you had to do in a certain order?
No, I've got more of them nowadays than I did back then.
Milk before tea in the cup. All that.
Generally, I wouldn't wear
cream before jam on your scone.
Well, the cream and jam thing. The cream and jam thing is one of those West Country things. So
Devon versus Cornwall.
I think the further west you go, it's cream first and then jam.
Correct.
Whereas in Dorset, I think it's jam then cream.
Devon.
Is it Devon? I don't know.
Dorset's probably got.
I don't go over the border very often.
Both. Dorset.
But no, as
you
a
don't
rider,
even want to get a third party involved in that argument.
As a rider, I didn't really have any kind of hang-ups.
Yeah, some do though, don't they? I mean, lucky socks and all that kind of stuff, which you can get.
I quickly learned not to wear any kind of jewellery or chains, because when you crash, if you're wearing a chain and it gets stuck around your chin, which if you study the dynamics of a crash, your body goes in strange places. You can kind of hurt yourself with that. Definitely not wear rings, because if you fall off and take chunks out your fingers, the stuff gets cut off. So leave all that stuff in the suitcase, because if you kind of take it around with you in your bag, you will lose it. And then when you go home and say it's your ring when you got married, if you lose that, your other half tends to kind of be a bit upset about it.
Yeah, happened to Dan Lloyd actually. Lost his wedding ring, and his wife he replaced it with a copper ring. And yes, I know, a typical Dan. But his wife Elaine took the ring and sent it to Rob Hales, who's a cycling jewellery expert, who then did a fantastic creation out of carbon fibre using this original copper ring, and he's now got a really beautiful wedding ring that's very unique, more unique than the gold one. There you are. As an aside,
it's probably cheaper than his wife leaving him also.
61.5 kilometres from home.
So we could see Ineos there, just discussing the plan.
Yeah.
What that's going to be. It's not that difficult. They have to win the stage, and they have to block the other guys out of the sprint, but they've got a really difficult position. And I can imagine in the team meeting this morning, it wasn't too comfortable a discussion about how well they've done. They've definitely got the strongest team on paper here, but they haven't been able to kind of take any kind of real control of the race and dominate it.
How often have we said that this season?
Yeah, it's quite often they turn up and you think, yeah, Ineos Grenadiers have got this sorted. They've got the strongest riders, but they've kind of tended to ride not really as a collective. It's kind of a set of individuals, which.
Is there anyone that they can 100% get behind? I mean, I know as results reveal themselves, that happens. And of course, Geraint Thomas having a great Giro d'Italia. It didn't work out when it came to La Vuelta, of course. So yeah, they need to have a rallying point, I think. And is that point going to be Primož Roglič?
Oh, the Primož Roglič affair, which
we may as well dip in, and everyone else is swimming in that pool.
Yeah, if we get another week of that, it's a bit of a soap opera at the moment. Do they need Primož Roglič? Yes, but then so do a number of other teams.
True.
Latest news is it's between Ineos and Bora Hansgrohe. So then you're looking at where does Primož Roglič fit into that structure, and you would think Ineos has got the strongest individuals, but that doesn't always build a really great team. So he might actually be better to go to Bora, where those guys that at helper level are actually going to commit to him at 100%. I'm not saying that Ineos wouldn't do it, but when you see a really big rider arrive in your team and you're capable of winning the biggest races, it does motivate you more than you thinking, I could actually get a result here. So then you give up all of your individual ambition, and you don't care if you get dropped 40 kilometres from the finish. Whereas if you've still got that little bit of ego and ambition going on, you might kind of not fully committed and you might be a bit concerned to get dropped 100k from the end and be in the gruppetto every day.
Is this the Enric Mas syndrome that's going to stop him going to Movistar?
For Roglič, he needs a rider who's capable of riding two calls on the front, so do two mountains, climbing 25 kilometres on the front of a group where there's only maybe 15-20 riders left, and doing that consistently. That's not Enric Mas. So I would say probably Movistar is his least likely option. Whereas probably looking at the Bora Ineos thing, in that situation, I'd imagine Bora looks more attractive from that kind of team building exercise. Whereas Ineos, it's more attractive from probably the kind of individuals involved.
Here's Ethan Hayter just getting himself back up. Matt Dinham there from DSM, and of course Magnus Sheffield, who was leading this race, the American teammate of Ethan Hayter, just making sure he gets back to where he needs to be. Must have been technical, maybe a comfort break. No panic at all, just getting back in. Ethan Hayter got up for the intermediate sprint. Alexander Kristoff took the 3 bonus seconds. The second intermediate sprint was actually contested by the breakaway, so it had no impact overall, but the first did. It's Sheffield on water carrying duties. He's also well placed, despite tumbling yesterday, out of the lead of the race, but only lost a handful of seconds. He sits at 9 seconds down, the same as Ethan Hayter. But in a sprint scenario, you'd have to back Hayter.
Definitely. And you imagine that Magnus Sheffield is going to become a part of that lead-out train, that Ineos, if they have to commit to that, then they're going to do it. It'd probably be more in their interest to start firing off riders before they even get to the circuit, to make it really difficult and be disruptive.
So they started the day sharing the time, Hayter and Sheffield, but Hayter found 2 bonus seconds courtesy of that intermediate sprint, so he is now solitary in second place on 7 seconds down. Magnus Sheffield is at 9 seconds. I believe he's dropped has he dropped to 4th? I think he has dropped to 4th with Alexander Kristoff, who is now also on 9 seconds but had a better finish yesterday, and indeed consistently than Magnus Sheffield. So there you have it. So Magnus Sheffield, courtesy of his crash and the intermediate sprint that we've already had, has seen Kristoff vault over him into 3rd place, and Ethan Hayter now solidly in 2nd place, 7 seconds down. Aular, who is our leader, is still capable of indeed holding on to that jersey, but there will be a sprint finale, and there are bonus seconds up for grabs. 10, 6 and 4. So 6 seconds are not enough for Ethan Hayter. He has to win the day and hope that Aular finishes third or worse. No, that won't even help. 10, 6 and 4. No, that wouldn't be enough. Aular would have to be out of it. So Hayter needs to win. Aular not bonus score.
Are you sure?
I think.
I was just watching you trying to figure all that out, and we've got another.
We got there in the end.
We've got another bonus sprint set of bonus seconds coming up at the next intermediate sprint. Can you imagine the mathematics going on back in the cars trying to figure all this out? So those guys are already excited. I imagine there's going to be mechanics in the back with a calculator trying to figure out who's where, who's jumped over who, what's the potential of this, that, and the other, and ending up with a sore head and just getting a cup of coffee out and thinking, well, we'll see what happens.
So 10 kilometres from home, there's the first of our sprint finales, because that's going to be 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds, and so the gap could alter the complexion of how the day finishes. What Aular will do about that intermediate is anybody's guess. If he believes he can win the day, he might keep his powder dry and then go for it at the end. We'll find out, but it's going to get complicated. We are about to start climbing. It will be with 51 kilometres to go, so in just over 5 kilometres time. And it'll be our breakaway that takes it on. They've pushed out to nearly 2 minutes, actually. We haven't done too much on our breakaway, to be fair. It's not that we don't believe in them. Well, actually, it is because we don't believe in them, but I would love to see a breakaway get home. I cannot imagine it in today's scenario because the circuit's so tight. It's only 5 kilometres in length. It's got 4 turns. If you imagine a rectangle that you stretch out over the full desk, you get the idea. So it's a long reach, then a double turn, so it's a double phase hairpin essentially, and then back all the way back down, same deal at the other end, and we just keep going.
Yeah, so basically it's like I said, an oil drum at each end, and they just turn around in the road. Yeah. So like the Champs-Élysées, but without the other bits going around Place de la Concorde and past the Louvre. So there's none of that.
I'm waiting to see if it is actually a dead turn. I think it's actually quite squared off. So there is each of the turns are 290 degrees as they come round. Anyway, we'll get a full view of it.
But looking at
in good time.
Looking at the 5-man break, the first ride is at something almost 20 minutes down.
They're not a threat.
Stedman, so they're in no way a threat. So for them, this is about trying to win the stage.
Yep.
It doesn't really apply any kind of pressure to the GC battle, which is probably why only Uno X are interested at the moment, because nobody else has to do any panicking.
Well, there we are. Uno X for Christoph needs to win everything. He needs the next intermediate sprint, and then he needs to win the sprint.
Yeah, good luck with that. Basically. But
good job you're not on the radio.
I was watching the political broadcast, the kind of political program as I was getting ready this morning.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of put me in a funny mood for today.
All right. Did you chuck stuff?
Yeah. So yeah.
Can happen. So yes, Ineos Grenadiers and indeed Uno X really more than anyone want to make this tough, and that explains the pace that we've got today. 54 kilometres from home at 13:21 time-wise. We are well up on our fastest pace. We're about, I don't know, I haven't got an average speed, but it must be 52, 54 kilometres an hour, something like that, along those lines. They're just on a bit of a drag at the moment as they come up over this motorway bridge, but yeah, they really are ahead of schedule at the moment. Piling on. It's been fast, and the pace has been dictated by Uno X, and the reason is they want Alexander Kristoff to get himself up and in the frame, not only for the final, but also for the next intermediate sprint, which comes with 10 kilometres to go. Our breakaway is about to start climbing. You possibly won't even notice it. It's a category 3 test. It's a bit of a lump, but it's not going to be fought for by the King of the Mountains competitors. So we just hove in on Magnus Sheffield. It won't be for Magnus today. It will be for Ethan Hayter. Ethan, there he is, just stretching his back. Hope he hasn't been off. I don't think so. It's like a bear waking up, isn't it? Yes. He's been back to the car for some reason. Maybe just to get his favourite steed underneath him. And they're making sure that he's not going to start messing around at the back. Just dropping in behind him there, Josh Tarling will be doing a whole load of work. And just waiting to see where Luke Rowe is. He'll be marshalling the whole thing, just making sure everybody gets their roles sorted out. They could do with winning this race, to be honest.
They could do with, so they started off well with Elia Viviani taking the race lead to that first stage. They could do with rounding it off with taking the last stage as well and taking the GC. It looks unlikely though. They've got themselves in a position where it's going to be very difficult for them to wrestle control from Aliwar and Kaharu Rao, who we have to say have ridden a really intelligent race.
Certainly have. There is our race leader, Aular. And on his back wheel is Equipo Kern Farmer. So what will the EKP boys be doing today? They have Barade, and he is in 7th place at 17 seconds down. I don't think he got up for the intermediate sprint out there either. So there is one intermediate to come, and there'll be some top 10 places as well that have to be secured. And from position 6 to 12, we have those riders who are all on exactly the same time, so they kind of want to finish in front of each other. Includes Eddie Dunbar, actually. He could burst into the top 10 if he got a decent finish, but I think that's a tall order on a sprint day today. Stranger things have happened. Matt Dinham will want to do precisely that. I think Jayco will try and get Campbell Stewart up for a result. I hope he manages to finish strongly. Yesterday he looked like he just didn't fancy it because it was all kicking off.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of missed out yesterday. You were just looking at Elo Cometers. They had Lonardi up there yesterday in the sprint, so you imagine that they're going to come try and do the same thing. But it's been the rough and tumble hasn't been too hectic. It's been hectic but not crazy. So you can, and then we keep coming back to it. It's kind of getting towards the end of the year, and
exactly that.
Your nerves are a bit frazzled by now. So
well, just to let you know, Matty Mohoric actually thought to himself, no thank you very much yesterday. He'd taken a stage win, that's the best he can achieve within this race. He could have had a second win, I guess, but decided at the last that it just wasn't going to be for him, which is why he didn't feature in the top 10 at the end. He just backed out and thought, what am I doing? It's the end of the season, with a crash going on behind me, which we heard, which you will have heard at Sheffield. He just thought, to hell with it, and sat up.
Yeah, and he's going home today and doesn't really want to go home covered in bandages and
correct.
Greet the family covered in blood-stained pieces. It's not a good look at this kind of time of year, and you tend to have fallen off enough already throughout the year. You tend to fall apart 4 and 6 times, which might sound a lot to somebody who doesn't cycle very much, but bike racing is quite exciting and dangerous now and again.
Well, he's had a great year. He won a stage of the Tour de France, we remind you, into Poligny, stage 19. That was a grippy old day, absolutely perfect for him. And of course, a couple of years ago, Milan San Remo. So he's a superstar within that team, and they don't want to bruise him. So yes, he'll be going home in a nice package called an aircraft, with a smile on his face later on.
The last thing you want to do is be sitting in the airport, with holes oozing of.
Yes, with assistance.
Certain fluids. It's never good.
No. Meanwhile, so I can understand that. And apparently, Roglic is not going to Bahrain victorious. So there you go.
That's definite.
Apparently.
Maybe.
or
as I should say this morning, listening to all that political nonsense that was going on, let's be clear about this.
And then the next line is completely unclear. Meanwhile, here's your climb, and it's as soon as they cross over this particular little boundary, then a certain Mr. Jonas Rapp of Team Rinkhoff Alvarix is guaranteed the King of the Mountains jersey, and well done to him.
He's already guaranteed it, but now he's at the bottom of the climb, because unless he's suddenly changed his bike for one with an engine, he's not going to be overtaken here.
Well, it would be his rivals that we'd be worried about, but there aren't any here. So he has got that jersey. So congratulations to him. Clever timing. Went out for the Category 1 test yesterday and said, thank you very much.
Yeah, and quite often it comes that kind of thing that happens nowadays, that the brake hoovers up all those kind of smaller classifications in this type of race.
So at least the pace today is being kept absolutely at its highest. Stedman, Costanzi and indeed Gamper are those who've taken the last mountains points of this race. We do have high ground to play with at the Crow race. Unfortunately, we're not going to indeed have that at the end of today, which is a real shame for me, because I loved the climb up to the old town. I'm getting wistful about just being there with Brian Smith and going over the back to a restaurant. I said, I'll buy some wine, Brian, don't worry about it. And he whispered to the wine waiter who arrived with a bottle of wine, which he then served, and I thought, of course, that was lovely. And he said, I thought you'd like that one. I said, yeah, I'll buy the wine. Shall we have another bottle? Yes. But he never told me where this wine was on the on the list. It was lovely, but it wasn't cheap. Well, I'd already offered by then, so yes.
So you got kippered.
I got kippered by Smitty.
And there wasn't fish involved in this meal.
No. Yeah. Happy to accept my fate on that one.
So just looking at the schedule, we are kind of roughly just below the 48 kilometres an hour. So not hanging about, and we're not even into the final of the race today. So I imagine we're going to finish right on schedule, or like the other days, slightly in front of it.
Yep. Tipping over.
But as you can see, from a third cat climb on a flat day, it's a bit like one of those climbs you get in Belgium where they decide to have a classification at the top. It's not too difficult, and nobody's really in any kind of trouble.
Yep. It is actually just nudged on that climb underneath the 48 kilometres per hour. So, yeah. But I think we'll be over it by the time this pace is up. They haven't been hanging around UNOX. They really want some hurt. Looking as well at Q365, they've very much wanted to keep up towards the 4. This pace has actually been a big favour, I think, for our race leader, Aula, who doesn't mind a tough day. And if you're attacking lumpy stuff, which has just been over, all right, only a modest thing, but he's capable of sticking with it. So I think it bodes well for him late on. Innis Grenadiers have been busy hiding. Not lights under bushels, you understand, but Ethan Hayter will be shining very brightly towards the end. And in fact, in only about 30 kilometres time, a little bit more than that, we're coming onto the circuit. They'll race into it because of that intermediate sprint that comes with 10Ks to go. Yeah, so they won't be hanging around.
Yeah, I imagine they start smelling the centre of Zagreb coming up, and there's a full injection of pace into that situation. With only 3 laps to go.
Look at this, they're already celebrating. There's your King of the Mountain, Jonas Rapp. His teammate looks happier than him. That is Jaka Primožić, who was their favoured GC man, going suitably crazy. That was nice to see. It means a lot to them.
Yeah, it does. You know, probably not very often that they get to win a climb, any kind of classification at this level of race. So yeah, why shouldn't they celebrate? This is Zelina's Wine Road.
There you go. It's probably the road that Brian Smith has been up and down many, many times, because he knew exactly what to buy.
You're making it sound like Scottish people have a fascination with alcohol.
No, just Brian knows his wine. That's all I'm saying. He's as near to an expert in Scotland on wine as you're going to get. Yes, he only red. He knows nothing about white, apparently. But yeah, we'll leave that to Brian. But yeah, the vineyards here are spectacular, and it's a very rich and fruity, extraordinarily easy to drink wine that you will find in these parts. Of course, you can also go for fruit juice. They're very big on sour cherries in this part of the world. Do you know that?
I have eaten cherries, not my favourite.
Well, they do sour cherries here, which is a slightly different complexion, and they turn them into most spectacular jam. But they also make cherry juice, which is in Eastern Europe is a big thing. You can't really find it. You have to look hard in the United Kingdom to find cherry juice. But in these parts, yeah. So you've got your orange juice, your apple juice, and your cherry juice. Yeah. Fill your boots. At the moment, these guys, X, are absolutely tanning the entire race.
They are. So Simon Dalby on the front again, and they've put Torsten training with him today, who had started the race as their GC hope, and they've had to change their plans somewhat.
They're frying everyone for this one. It's going to be a big occasion. Just trying to find a little bit more on your vineyards for you along the way today. I'll get there. I'm spooling through a whole raft of beautiful castles and ruins.
I mean, I could say...
Just me being self-deprecating. Right?
I could say with the bother of saying I'm not really a wine person, but carry on.
Keep whining. Why don't you? I found Zelinska's wine road. Apparently, Svetty Ivan, I don't know, maybe he's a wrestler. Svetty Ivan Zelina is known for the production of quality wines that have long ago charted their place on the wine map of Croatia. And a special place on the wine throne is held by...
It's not Brian Smith.
Not Svetty Ivan, no.
It's Svetty Ivan,
I
not
know
Sweaty.
And it's a place, yes. Svetty Ivan Zelina. It's an area, so it's not a wrestler. The Queen of Pigorje, and that is the indigenous and most widespread in this region. Top quality wines, delicious snacks await you on the Zelina Wine Road. So basically, I hope you're walking, because after the first two hostelries you come along, they'll break out some snacks for you, get their finest for you to try, and then presumably try and stop you walking on to the next one. But anyway, the wine road is there. Zelina's Wine Road, Svetty Ivan Zelina.
Yeah, that's a bit of random information to cheer the race up for the moment.
Well, it's a bit quiet just for now. As we pass by some of the spectacular warehousing in this part of the world, but there you go. This is Patrick Reisig.
Push bikers. Hello, yeah, push bikers.
Do you remember there was a brand of bike called Puch, P-U-C-H?
Yes.
And it had like a BMW sign.
Yes.
Yes. And I went into Halford's bike store in Sheffield when I was a kid. I really quite fancied one of these. And I said to the guy, have you got any push bikes? He said, we've got hundreds of them, mate. They're all upstairs. I think he had said push bikes. I wanted a push bike very much, and unfortunately was defeated by Sheffield Halfords. But that's back in the day. They seem happy enough. Seems to be a little less tattooage going on in the pro peloton of late. There was a time when everyone looked like they'd been birthing cattle. But now it seems that the trend has changed again.
I think you're showing your age there, picking on people with tattoos.
No, I'm not picking on anybody.
It's definitely a thing for the youth of today.
I think it's changed. I think it's actually drifted away again. These things come and go. No disrespect intended. But strange. It's a very, very clean arm look to the younger peloton that is emerging. City of Zagreb, capital of the Republic of Croatia, is where we are heading. Situated in the geographical, cultural, historical and political crossroads between East and West. I thought that was Istanbul, but anyway, Zagreb is one of those as well. Minute and 56, and it's time to, start thinking about our finale today, as if we haven't been already. Do you think we'll get surprised?
No, I really think this is going to be the traditional ending end of a small stage race where it turns into a massive bunch sprint for those who are actually really concerned in trying to win the race. Because if we look at it so far, how this race has kind of played out, it's been very traditional. Every day there's a small break. It takes 2 minutes at the most. In the peloton, it's either Uno X or Bahrain who take control. The break falls apart through the natural selection of the route, and we end up with a sprint. Almost every day it's been the same kind of scenario. And, I imagine that today will be slightly more difficult to take the break back just because the terrain's not too hard. However, given the kind of situation on the GC and the interest of the World Tour teams to give themselves a chance of winning the race, I imagine that they're going to decide, right, we're going to go and get these guys before we get to the circuit, so we can play out the scenario that our director sportif has said has to happen.
We'd better do. Well, it's drifted out to 2 minutes, and we've got some strength here. In fact, dare I say it, this is the strongest break we've had in the entire race.
It looks like that for the moment. There's just on that little uphill bit, we saw Stedman, who's the South African national world champion, kind of set the pace, and everybody was quite happy for him to do that. He's the best placed on GC, but none of them are really involved in that. They're just interested in trying to take the honours on the last day.
41 kilometres from home then, so getting up to the 2 minute marker, and this is because I think Uno X are running out of resources that they want to actually impose on this day. Just going to be joined by our wider Eurosport family. Welcome back, those of you who've been away. The gap's gone up, and it's 40 kilometres from home, and it's 2 minutes. And we've got, just discussing with Pippa while some of you are away, possibly the strongest break that we've had. This is Otruba. They're doing the honour of going through those who are on that 17-second margin, and indeed have a potential to move within the top 10. So there'll be a bit of that going on today. And that caginess, I think, has not served Uno X terribly well, because they've had to do a lot of work, and they want to keep some back for Alexander Kristoff when we get to the intermediate sprint and the sprint finale, because he's got a chance of winning the race if he nails everything and others don't. However, it's a long shot, but they've clearly tried to put the hurt on everyone around them, and not least Aular, who is our race leader. Here he is for Kai Rural. I think it's a long shot to be able to diminish his desire to take the day, or indeed his capabilities of doing so. So this is, we're just going through those who will or potentially might feature towards the end of the day. But let me just dwell momentarily on our breakaway, because it's very strong. And in fact, it's possibly been our strongest breakaway that we've had. Martin Pedersen is up there for Trek Segafredo, as he was, but is now with Lidl Trek, of course. He has made the trip. He's a sprinter, he's a quick man, so the day is one that I think, being in the company that he is, possibly won't help him too much. Q365 have bought the right to sit in by putting a very strong rider in Travis Stedman up the road. He is the South African time trial champion. And yeah, my mate Marine will be absolutely delighted by that. The 21-year-old is a youngster, so to come through and take the senior nationals in a very hard fought for national championship, he did a very good job of doing precisely that. Beat Reinhard Janssen van Rensburg, a few other very, very notable riders, as I am sure you know they have in South Africa. It's a great country, and indeed produced some fabulous cyclists. He's up the road, and he's part of the engine room, and he's more than capable of getting over a few lumpy bits. He's also got a sprint on him as well. So the breakaway is going to have to deal with him. That might actually cause a little bit of a lack of cohesion later on. We have Aleš Turk, who is up there as well from Slovenia. He went strongly in the national championships. The national champs of Slovenia, as you can imagine, with names like Pogačar, Mezgec, Mohoric, Govachka, Rovat, Novak. You get the idea. he got himself a nice finish in that top 20 and was worthy of it. We'll see what credentials he's got for Q365. At the moment, I think what he's doing is buying the right for them to be able to sit in and work for Parasini later on. Parasini, a stage win already, would like another one, I think. Alish Turk is, that was Stedman who's working for him. Alish Turk for Adri Mobil. They have, of course, some options overall in the top 10 and would like to invoke that. We have Maro Gamper from Santic Vibertech in the sort of dark green. Looks like it's been dipped in a tie-dye scenario. I actually really like it. You'll see the colour of it in a moment. But Mario Gamper is up the road, working, I presume, for Jonas Messerschmidt. Just love saying the name, to be honest. But we'll see if he's spitting fire at the end of the day. Matthias Konstanski is also up here. He's a sprinter, got a good time trial on him as well, was fourth in the Nationals at under 23 level. And he is also took the he went strongly in the Etoile d'Or. In fact, I think he was second in the points race in that race as well, with some very strong riders therein. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is our breakaway actually got some strength about it. Some of them are there to allow their teammates to have an easier run through the day, but some of them will be wanting to help themselves. At the moment, they're at 2 minutes, and the closer we get, the better this is for Aular, because it means that bonus seconds at the intermediate sprint and at the finish could potentially go the way of the break.
They certainly could, and they've got no real interest in pulling it back, which is why we see them sitting fairly far back in the line. But from there they can see the front, but they're not taking any real wind, and they won't be too worried about this situation at the moment. It's not up to them to close this gap, and just from looking down the line, they can see who's intent on trying to still win the race for their own interest. But for Aluar, he's can sit on the back of his line and kind of pay attention when he has to.
When you think about the other teams as well here, Ilocometa with Eric Vetter, so for the guys racing here in the blue, they've got really no interest in catching the break either, because what they actually want at the end is all their strength to actually get Vetter a decent finish and make sure he finishes in the top 10. And there's lots of other teams who are within that group as well who would quite like the same scenario. It might be that this break has a chance today.
Yeah, there's lots of people who don't want it to come back.
Yep.
And then there's that kind of group 6 to 10, which is going to play out not really on time, but on finish on where the kind of point situations. So they're going to start adding up, the finishes from, the previous days. So that's kind of going to add to the complication back in the cars, where you're going to need the calculators to figure out who's where and who's got bonus seconds, who hoovered up that. So as a rider, they're not really going to have the mental capacity to figure all this out on the road. They're going to have to leave it to the management in the cars.
So some of those teams that could potentially get themselves a top 10, if they have the belief that they can actually just finish strongly, and positionally, all of those riders, for example, who share 17 seconds deficit, that's Matt Dinham, Barade from Equipo Kern Pharma, Yola Cometa's Vetter, Glyvar from Adrimobil, for Otruba for AT&T, Jayco's Eddie Dunbar. All of those riders will be thinking, well, if it's decided overall, maybe they will give it a little bit less, and it's all about our finishing position. They'll be looking at riders around them thinking, I can beat them, I can move up. So it could actually be that they all cancel each other out. The breakaway takes the day, and then everyone else goes hell for leather for a positional finish and make sure that they get as better finish as they possibly can.
I imagine for guys like Eddie Dunbar, he's not going to be even remotely involved in this finish. So,
exactly. But those around him will be, and they'll be thinking, I could vault, because look, Dunbar's not going to go for it, etc., etc. So if
it's way too complicated to kind of try and figure out from before.
But it is lovely to be able to conjure it in our minds.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the interests we've got at the moment. Even you can see the guys from the Indies were all kind of sitting back in 40th position,
Yeah.
kind of cruising along, making fun of each other. So for the moment, they're relaxed and then waiting for the whole thing to kick off as we come into Zagreb.
So, Ethan Hayter is 7 seconds down now after picking up some intermediate sprint bonuses. And it looks like this breakaway is going to take the intermediate sprint, then I think the race spools away from Ethan Hayter. He'd have to win the day and hope that Aular was nowhere near him. I don't know. I'm just wondering whether this is a set piece already and we're going to get our breakaway having some fun. There doesn't seem to be any drive to catch them. I know we've still got 34 kilometres to go, but it's solid around 2 minutes.
Yeah, it is, but so far only 2 riders from Renault X on the front. They're going to have to put probably 6 riders and swapping turns to pull it back, because the 5 in the front aren't really going to be troubled by the terrain. So to take them back, you're kind of cruising along at a 48 km/h average. To take them back, you're going to have to ride 50 something. They're going to have to put bigger elements in on the front to be able to do that.
Let's see if they do. It's 1 minute and 50, so they've found 10 seconds, but there you are, it bounces around the clock as well. Seems like too much of an assumption at the moment for it to fail. We're going to be on the circuit with 16.5 kilometres to go, so half the remaining distance will be there.
You know, we were just saying about they're going to have to put more bodies. So we've just seen a DSM and Jaco Alula sending reinforcements to the front, so it looks like the brake is going to start being put under a bit of pressure.
It does.
So Oscar Onley's joined the fray on the front, and we've seen him pulling quite a lot on it during this race. So more people to take the wins.
Well, Matt Dinham is the best of those on 17 seconds at the moment. He'll be thinking about a top 5 potentially. Well, we are indeed just pondering life, the universe and everything at the moment. Good footwork there by the security bike to win himself a full bead on the way it moved upon the earth. But 1 minute and 48, it says, is our gap with 33 kilometres to go. In around 16 kilometres we'll be on our circuit. So that's when we come truly into Zagreb. You can see it's a highway we're dealing with, and this is not that dissimilar to the road we'll be dealing with at the finish, save for the fact we'll be doing a double 90 degree to come down the other side. So it suggests that the central part of our switchback is a little bit broader than we're dealing with, but nonetheless they will be able to see each other. I don't think there's any buildings in between. Renault X have continued to punish themselves today. Are they going to burn out?
No, not on this terrain. Not now. They've had we've got Oscar Onley and Rudy Porter joined the fray on the front, so this will change things, and we ought to see him taking probably back 5-10 seconds a kilometre once those two start pulling on the front.
Eric Vetter from Yolo Kometa has got a full team committed to him today. Maestri and Lonardi, they've been busy in brakes and the rest of it during this race. There's nobody up the road for them, but they could take a nice top 5 if they worked it nicely. They'd have to catch the break though if they were going to put some insurance seconds in their back pocket, and at the moment it doesn't look like it's that arduous back here. As you can see, the terrain and indeed the air that's being punched by the main body of the peloton as the motorcycle and the camera comes through, trying to get an arc shot, nearly took them down, but we're all right. And here we are, we're sort of catching up with those who will be part of the action at the end of the day. Ethan Hayter there, making sure he stays as rested as possible, and Elia Viviani just having a brief chat. I think it was to Luke Rowe. Didn't quite catch who Vivian was talking to, but here we are. It does not look stressed at all, does it?
It doesn't. Even though they're riding 50 kilometres an hour as a pro bike rider on the flat, that's perfectly comfortable, which seems a kind of crazy thing to do, but when it's your job, your kind of passion, you become comfortable at that speed.
There's our leader, Aulus Aular, and He's got a great chance here. That's Leonardo Barcelo, who would have started amongst the favourites within the team to do something. Jefferson Chibeda, not enough high ground for him to shine. Yoi Leitao is going to be his lead-out man. Leitao having already taken a stage win. They've had 2 stage wins out of this race so far, Caio Rural. "14 kilometres before we get to the circuit, Zagreb is starting to loom large, coming through the outskirts right now. By the time we get there, there will be we will have covered the terrain today at around about 48 kilometres per hour, which is not hanging around. We've just been downstairs while some of you have been away and seen that the peloton, at least within the main body of it, is not overly stressed, but it has strung out. And we've got some help up front. Yolo Cometa are kind of lingering there, but it's DSM and Jayco. We've just posted a few. Rudy Porter has come up for Jayco Alula, just to make sure that Campbell Stewart has a chance a little bit later on. And indeed, we have also seen Matt Dinham doing a proper job. Oscar Onley doing a proper job up front as well. Matt Dinham is placed in 6th overall. I imagine Tobias Lund would like a stage win. He indeed is wearing the blue points jersey, of course, so we'll be looking for those. So here we go.
So you can see they've lost 10 seconds already from the break just by adding those 2 fresh bodies to the chase. I think time it over this next kilometre and to probably lose a couple more seconds.
Yeah, we will only get a definitive, I guess, once we pass the start-finish line. That will be at 15 kilometres to go. We have 3 laps of 5 kilometres, and it's not going to be that much more complex than what we're looking at the moment, save for the turns that they have to make. We're very much looking forward to seeing how focused these turns are. I think the double left-hander that you have to take at the top and tail of the highway here is separated by 100 metres or so. So we're guessing because we're waiting to see it. Can't wait. Minute 27, you're right, they're trimming them.
Yeah, they're taking roughly back 10 seconds a kilometre. So if you do the calculation for that, they ought to just catch them at 15, 16 kilometres to go.
That's optimal for the intermediate sprint at 10 kilometres to go. So 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds up for grabs. Reminder, if you're only just joining us, that Alexander Kristoff has already trimmed his deficit overall with 3 bonus seconds, so he's sitting at 9 seconds. He's in 3rd place. Ethan Hayter got 2 bonus seconds, so he's 7 seconds down on Aolar, with an intermediate sprint and indeed a sprint finale to be dealt with today. So possibility of a shake-up at the top. Aolar has got to believe that he's got the team around him to protect him in the Caio Rural. There is the man who did lead the race until taking a tumble yesterday. You see the plaster on his elbow, perhaps. Wearing the white jersey, it is Magnus Sheffield. Takes a wipe. Nervous times for everybody. Starting to.
So it's starting to get a little bit more heated. Everybody will be at least 1 gear bigger with that injection of pace. So now that they're riding a couple of kilometres an hour faster than they were before, you feel that difference from kind of strolling along at that. You've got used to that tempo, the 50 kilometres an hour. Now they'll be up to 55. You'll definitely notice that. And for the riders in good form, they'll welcome that because they'll feel really good. They'll still feel good, whereas everybody else will start to kind of string out and think, well, when we get to the circuit, am I going to finish? The lure of the hotel room suddenly appears. The team buses will be there, and you're thinking, well, I'm just getting battered here around the back. What do I do? You might finish for your own pride, but sometimes it's better to save your energy for another day.
I'm actually wondering whether Caio Rural might actually disrupt the chase before we'll have to get more critical for them to do that. The closer we get to the intermediate sprint, whether they're going to just save themselves entirely for the last, or indeed whether they're going to try and just mess with everyone's heads on the approach to that in the hope that the breakaway hoover up all the bonus seconds.
It'd be difficult for them to do that. You look at the roads, even if you have an attack with 2 riders, the more experienced, kind of more established team would just look at them and go, okay, we'll take you back in 2-3 kilometres time. It could be worth doing, just as a kind of thing to do once you get into the town. But on this kind of road, if you attack with 2-3 riders, as you can see the car in distance there, you might put yourself in that position, but the peloton will just be looking at you thinking, yeah, we'll come and get you when we want almost.
I'm not assuming they'll go up the road. It's just that as we get closer to the sprint, if this does get critical and the brake's still up the road, whether they'll come and try and mess with the chase to stop them actually, not with ambitions to go up the road themselves, CRO, but just to dampen down the chase.
Just to be disruptive. Yeah, it could be worth doing, but it wouldn't be looked upon very well by your friends. They'd be wondering what you were doing.
Look at that helmet. Tells you a lot. He is up for this, Alexander Kristoff, wearing the former European champs bands upon his sleeve caps here. And he looks dialed in and ready, doesn't he?
He hasn't had to shave, so he's kept all that energy. I remember that for a while. That was one of those marginal gains that you had to do, not to kind of shave in the morning, because I don't know. It
lift your arm up.
It stunted your energy flow or something like that. I'm sure nowadays it's part of that kind of aero thing, whereas dimples on your chin will be faster.
You'd have to have a rough surface on the back of your head, but apparently the fastest leg formation is to shave the front of your legs and leave the back of your legs hairy because of the dissipation of the air that swirls around you. But it looks so terrible, nobody's going to go for that. But apparently it does have a very, very, very marginal impact. But you do feel shocking. So.
Well, the thing is with that is
it do look shocking.
When you're in your bed at night, you tend to kind of turn into a kind of fetal position. So you'd have that kind of jagginess on the back of your. So the energy you saved aerodynamically might be wasted by a really poor sleep.
Well, you can let them go soft and long at the back. Anyway. It's not a good look, but aero-wise it does work well. Minute 13, it has been tested, can you believe that? 850 metres only, it suddenly jumps. So there's a marker point. Presumably they did it on that hoarding, that electronic hoarding at the side of the road. So 850 metres, they're going to get them.
Yeah, they can see them now, and then that, the brake will look back and know they're coming. Just a matter of how far are we going to take this. But this type of road, quite often it's fatal to a long-term kind of break that's been up front. So they've been up there almost all day. They'll get slightly tired and they'll be slightly demoralised at knowing that the peloton's coming for them.
Well, here we are, 25 to go, and sadly for these breakaway riders, it's not going to be the fairy tale, I don't think, unless there's somebody here with an inordinate amount of strength who can actually push on out of it and then do a job. I think they've shared the duty quite well. The missing turns has been Martin Pedersen for Lidl Trek by the looks of things, but he's now been encouraged to start to roll through. And they've picked up the pace a bit, actually. Words got through to them that the gap has narrowed ever so slightly, and occasionally you do get a breakaway that's held something in reserve to impose now.
Yeah, they've often they kind of, if you've got somebody who's well experienced in how this works, they'll say, okay, we'll not take too much time, and then as we get closer, we'll try and surprise the chasers. Sometimes it works. Generally, you need more kind of World Tour level riders because they're.
So you need Thomas de Gendt.
I was going to say you need the engine that is Thomas de Gendt that can ride 55 kilometers on their own and pull everybody along. Whereas you can see these guys are slightly more pressurized by riding, have to up the pace.
Well, minute and 7. It looks more concerted back here, but that's no disrespect intended at all, because Travis Steadman looked like he was gunning it. 23 kilometres to go. Well, if everyone's hunting down, if Alexander Kristoff is waiting for his team to wind them in, it's going to be touch and go. Mind you, it's at 10 k's to go. They've still got 13 kilometres to kill off this minute. That's doable. And how much help are they going to get offered? Well, Rudy Porter hits at the front and does an exchange, so at least gives them a turn. And here you are, Peloton travelling at 52.8 kilometres an hour. The leaders just over 50. 2 kilometres per hour difference between them. It's not fully committed, is it, this chase yet? They're still finessing it.
Yeah, they haven't put the real big engines on the front. So if you think that Oscar Only's a climber, Rudy Porter, climbs quite well as too. So even for them who are not kind of specialists in this kind of thing of closing a gap, they can still take that 9-10 seconds a kilometre. So here comes the rest of the X Armada to the front.
Here comes the cavalry. They've blown the trumpet, and right now Chief Bugler is Alexander Kristov, who'll be putting that to his lips if he gets through this intermediate sprint and gets another 3 seconds just to keep the pressure on. And this is nice.
And everybody, let's see this happening, and that'll cause another team like so Ineos have to move up as well to try and keep themselves in the game.
Caroral are doing the same.
See the race leaders team, Caroral are following them. So this is just going to up the whole kind of game, and you'll find the pace gets lifted just that ever so slightly. So it'll go from 52.8 to 54, and suddenly the 10 seconds a kilometre turns into 15 seconds a kilometre.
Here we are then, it's our breakaway with all the twos, 2:22 for viewers in Australia. We have a minute and 4 to our breakaway. Just looking at Uno X moving up, and it's Alexander Kristov who's already won the first of the day's intermediate sprints. He'd like to win the next one as well. That would put him on 6 seconds deficit. And then Alexander Kristov would like to win the day. And we'll see what we get on countback, what the time comparisons are. It could be very frantic at the end, depending on what happens with this intermediate sprint. More and more and less comfortable depending on how you settle yourselves down. So Hayter is at 7 seconds deficit after the first intermediate sprint, which he took 2 bonus seconds, so he's now gone to 7 seconds down. Alexander Kristov is at 9 seconds deficit after taking the 3 bonus seconds on the first intermediate sprint. If they want more bonus seconds before we get to the line, which has 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds, they have to catch these guys before our intermediate sprint with 10 kilometres to go in 11 k's time. We're on the circuit in a very short order in about 5 kilometres time. So hope you've remembered all of that. We'll be going through it again at each of those steps. Yeah,
and if you've noticed there on that little rise, there's a few grimaces appearing in the break, and on that type of just that little rise, the break will have lost 5 seconds in a couple of 100 metres there compared to the peloton, who'll just blast over it at the speed. And that's where if you've been in the break all day, that's where you tend to lose all your time. As soon as there's a little rise, you try and skip a turn on the front, and you can see the others kind of, right, you go first after me because I'm hurting now.
Hugo first, it's a great name. There is Luke Rowe, and at the moment he's having a big old chat with Magnus Sheffield. This will be how to approach the finale and make sure that Ethan Hayter wins the day. If he does, then it'll come down to finding out where Aular is positionally as to who's won the race, because Ethan Hayter is now is in second place, only 7 seconds in arrears. Here we go then, 20 kilometres from home, and there is the big chat that's going on at the moment. That's Connor Swift with Elia Viviani, who's now having to work out where he sits within a lead-out role for Ethan Hayter, I'll be bound.
Yeah, and you can see he's also been European World Champion, so that's why he's got the blue bands on. So they'll be kind of figuring out when they're going to make their big move to the front, because they have to be involved in this at some point.
Yep. Well, X have certainly made their move and their intentions felt. There is the view of it. Minute and 3. They're still doing a great job.
It is beginning to hurt. Those little rises will just be so painful now that they've been out there all day.
Well, a little bit of downhill respite, but only 720 metres. 3 kilometres they are away from our circuit. And here we are. Here's Zagreb business district, says the taller buildings a little bit further on. It's a fascinating city, actually. Not the prettiest you might think from this view, but it does have an old town that's absolutely charming, where the central cathedral sits upon the top of the mount, and that's what we used to climb up to. In fact, we've had a finish there in the past. It's today, however, it's going to be a sprint finish. Yeah, we've had some good old climbs up there. Vincenzo Nibali in 2017 was the overall winner. He finished just behind Sasha Modolo, who attacked the day. 2018, Paolo Simeon was there, Bardiani. Sensational double victory for them. Simeon finishing 11 seconds ahead of Mirko Maestri. Rhymes with pastry. Eddie Viviani, of course, won in 2022 at a mass sprint. Matej Mohoric with the bonus seconds. A man who came here as defending champion, has had a stage win, backed out of the sprint yesterday. I imagine he'd probably not be risking anything today either. 2021, the year prior, Tim van Dijken won a three-man sprint ahead of Steve Williams and Marcus Holgaard after they pulled away on the hill. Before Caden Groves won the sprint behind 5 seconds later, you may remember, once they came down, so we didn't finish on the crest. Alessandro Fedeli it was that came home from a breakaway to cheat Jan Tratnik of victory. That was on the hill in 2019. No hill now, so I'm just kind of filling you in and reminding you about who went well in the past. But this is a different scenario because we're sprinting today, and it is this pesky circuit, which you're going to get a good view of in a few moments' time. Just drop my coffee.
So the cheat that on the peloton, they've lost Torsten Treen and Rudy Porter from doing work on the front. So the kind of pressure of having to keep that pace up is put paid to them. Now there's only two on the front, so we still have Simon Dalbia and Oscar Onley pulling on but eventually somebody else is going to come along and take their place, because they've kind of stabilized at this 50 seconds mark and they're kind of stuck there. So it's now 2 against 5, and even though the 5 in front are tired, the 2 behind are probably equally as tired.
So Christoph's train is here. You can see the Norwegian champion Freddy Bern, the only distinctive jersey that we have within UnoX, but they'd like to actually raid for the red leaders jersey. That sits on the back of Olus Aular. That is Magnus Sheffield, young riders classification he's wearing, the white jersey next to the Aussie champion, his teammate Luke Platt. Meanwhile up front, 53 seconds, they still have a margin. They've got still some work to do then if they want to turn this intermediate sprint into something special. This is a request coming in from UnoX. Do you still want us to go for the intermediate? That's what that's about. I think the answer has come back, absolutely, get on with it.
I think he's asking for reinforcements from the rear. But you can see everybody else is kind of poised for the big flight into the circuit, where the circuit starts in roughly 1.5 kilometers. So they enter the circuit then, and this could be the turn that kind of takes them in that direction. So the real fighting is really going to start soon.
Here we are, we're on our circuit, and so they will cross the line and have 3 laps to go. So it's you can actually see the inflated bollards up there. We're going round the park. It's a very long, thin park, but nonetheless we'll have a couple of 90-degree turns, both left-handers at the bottom of the circuit, and then we'll do the same at the top, always left-handers. So this is they entering the chase right now, and they are now upon the circuit themselves. You can see where we'll be rejoining it next time by. That little intersection is where we'll be coming back, and in fact there is marked the Flamme Rouge for you. That will be of relevance next time. So here we are. Bit of a heat haze as well today being generated. A lovely, very still day, 27 Celsius, one of the warmest days we've had. It's been glorious.
Yeah, and it's just about to hot up nicely for the finale of this Tour of Croatia.
5 kilometers time, we're going to have our intermediate sprint. Will they be caught? Here is a definitive time gap for you as we're just about to hit 3 hours of racing. They haven't held back today at all, and clock begins to roll right now. Here is the peloton turning on in the chase, and indeed everyone looking for UnoX. Come on, you're going to do some work here. And who else wants bonus seconds? Lot being asked here of Team Rinkov. They would hope to get something from today, I am certain. They've already got a King of the Mountains jersey. 15.2 kilometres, 5 kilometres to the intermediate sprint, which will take place right here. And the definitive gap is coming to you in just a few moments' time. I've got my thumb ready. Here it is. It's 36 seconds is the gap. We've got to find that. They want to contest an intermediate sprint, those who are hoping to gain time overall. It's got a bit messy out there. You can see Aolar's red jersey just spearing up through the centre. He's got one man with him, and ultimately, I think it's Eusebio Lopez at the moment, but it'll be Yuri Leitao late on. In fact, it already is Leitao, number 55 in the pale green and white centre of proceedings. Other armaments being brought up. That is Lopez, who's coming up the outside. Meanwhile, others, I'm actually wondering whether Aolar might put it beyond reach by getting up for the intermediate sprint. That might be clever.
Well, that wouldn't be. I don't think anybody else has thought of that one yet. Yeah, that really would upset the World Tour team plans. But in the break we've lost Ayaz Turk, so he's succumbed to the pressure that's now involved.
I've got a feeling that it might well be that somebody like Eusebio Lopez might actually go on a flyer to try and preempt the sprinters and leave Aolar to keep his powder dry for the last. We've got all kinds of scenarios here, but we'll know the answer. It says 42 seconds now, so the breakaway's pushed on with 14 kilometres to go. I'm just wondering whether this intermediate's going to roll away from them.
I think it is. Cahural is certainly not going to being interested in taking it back. As you said, they're going to pay attention just in case it looks they could be involved, but they really don't want to. They'd rather leave it to that last big finale sprint with the 10 seconds available for the win. That makes it very if the World Tour teams don't take it back now, then it makes it very difficult to kind of change the overall GC.
Gosh, it looks like an architect's model, that's been realised, including the trees. Top topiary. Little double turn. Gosh, they do take it as one swoop. So there you are. You're absolutely right. May as well have had a chestnut cellar right there. 13 kilometres from home. They didn't hang around there, did they?
It doesn't look like the kind of district where you will get a chestnut cellar. It's not. It doesn't look like in any way kind of. How can I say, authentic or kind of rustic.
It's quite modern, yes. 46 seconds. They're not going to catch him. They've got 3 kilometres to go, and whatever you put in now, you might have a deficit for later on.
Yeah, those teams that are really going to be involved in that the final sprint, they can't really commit to this at the moment because they're going to burn through a couple of riders, so they're not going to use up their lead out. So it's going to stabilise. The 3, 2 and 1 seconds are going to go to the guys in the break.
Which suits Aolar absolutely impeccably. He now needs to trace the likes of Ethan Hayter and Alexander Kristoff towards the finale, and he's capable of doing that. He beat Kristoff yesterday, don't forget, and Hayter. Yesterday's finish was Aolar, Kristoff, Hayter, and right now UnoX have said we're not doing everything.
No, so you've almost got 2 races here. One, which you choose, the left hand or the right hand side of the road, and in the middle there's a big kind of gap of right. Move up there if you want, but you'll be in the wind.
Well, here is yet another look, and still looking behind here. And we said this was a strong break. Travis Steppen, the South African champion for Q365, has done a great job. His team had to put their nose in the wind, so Nico Parsini might well have some hopes today. He looked boxed out of it yesterday. In fact, many were. And in fact, not least, of course, Tobias Lund, who wears the Blue Points jersey here. Let's see how it pans out today. 43 seconds. They're only 1,900 metres away from our finish, so our breakaway is going to take the bonus seconds, which means Aolar has an enhanced chance of winning this race.
He does. He's in the box seat at the moment. Cahural haven't had to do any work at all, so potentially you can just mark out the Kristoffs and the Ethan Hayters of this world, and just base their whole race on those 2.
Well, that's the vision they have to take, and it's really compact. This is, I think, certain teams just thinking, well, let's go for position at the very last, because there's so little. 17 seconds blanket the top 12, so you can move up by just having a good finish at the end of the day. So some of those like Otrubra, Train, perhaps, Feta certainly, Barade, they'll be looking at each other thinking, right, I just need to finish in front of you, and then I'll be 5th in this race instead of 8th. You get the idea. DSM bringing the blue jersey of Tobias Lund. He clearly wants more and would like actually good points finish in the blue today. Why would he not? And so the double turn happens once more, and those out front are just about to take the turn towards our finale. So good for them. The intermediate sprint will ring out, not with the bell, that will be the next time by with 5 kilometres to go. Still a margin, 700 metres before we cross the line, and here they are. Arms flicking out all over the place like a dodgy dad dance, and it is Powertrain himself, Travis Stedman, looking like he's going to have the honour of crossing the line here for the intermediate sprint. These are for bonus seconds, but also I think he's done much of the work in the breakaway. They still hold 25 seconds, but there go the intermediate sprint times that were so cherished, apparently, by indeed Alexander Kristoff, but there are other points up for grabs. And here we go. This is DSM that would like to enhance their position in the blue jersey. Let's wait and see. It's going to be on the finale for them. Tuck yourselves in. You can see Bahrain Victorious also just having a think about doing something for today. 10Ks to go until we get to the line proper, and that's when we'll be able to finally declare our champion.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of moving up for position as we come to these turns at the end of each kind of big long straight. So that's pushed the pace up just naturally, and you can see the amount of pressure they're under. The 4 riders in the front, they've got, they're pulling faces now and flicking the elbow that's somebody else to come through. So they're definitely hurting in the front. Well, behind here you can see there's a constant kind of moving up on each side, and that's just pushed the pace higher and higher.
Well, the breakaway still have 30 odd seconds. The time that they gained on that intermediate sprint was of no consequence. However, they're going to have a big sprint finale. I hope it ends safely.
Yeah, quite often you get this kind of finish where it's big long straight, and on paper it looks safe, but if it hasn't been too difficult, then you'll have riders involved who have, like we've got now, for all those guys who are on the same time in the GC who haven't got any bonus seconds but need a good finish, they have to be involved. So they're trying to follow the sprinters, but they don't have that necessary skills and reactions, and quite often we see crashes in those situations.
It's all very good on paper, but as we know, paper's highly flammable. They're going to come down here, do a loop, come back on themselves. They're going to eyeball the brake in a few moments' time, probably a few fists being shaken as well along the way. And then we will be back. Wait till you see the Flamme Rouge. That announces that sort of double phase turn that we've got that will bring us back to what has been our start-finish straight. It's almost a ground rush, and right now the pace is absolutely at its highest. Still 37 seconds to our break, for goodness sake.
Yeah, so far it's not really kind of the big engines up hit the front. So then DSM, you've got Frank Vandenbroek who's pulling on the front. So it's kind of the lightweight options for the moment that's just kind of keeping the pace. But you can be sure that if somebody like Bahrain hit the front with their kind of bigger riders, they're going to pull this back quite quickly.
The breakaway, I'd love to see him make it. There's your little shilly-shally to bring us back around. This is a big old loop if you can squeeze through, but they're going to have to compress. They're about 10 wide on the approach here, and suddenly everyone is going to have to squeeze in, and they just about get away with it, almost coming to a dead stop behind. And the margin, it says 36 seconds. It's actually 26 seconds as I've just timed it. So they may well strip the clock out in a few moments' time because they're going to be very, very much in sight of them. But 7.6 kilometres to go. I don't think they're going to hang out there. Half a minute advantage. They're still kicking on. They really mean this. Well, they may as well go all in.
They may as well, kind of fully committed to this. You can see Stedman, he looks like he's pulling the hardest, but he might just be making the most face. He's trying to keep this pace up.
It's wonderful. 7.4 kilometres of the day remaining then. We're going to come across the line to take the bell.
Here we go.
Yeah.
A counter-attack.
Finally. And just trying to see who it is.
It is Patrick Rybik from Mayola Push Bikers.
Good lad. Well, he's He's certainly committed.
He's ambitious. He thinks that the peloton's going to let him go at this point in the race. He'd probably been better to take a teammate with him, but since there's only 3 of them left from that team, it's a third of that squad has attacked.
It's Reisig who has gone for it. Yep. And there he is. And looking at a few others that have decided to engage the chase. Reisig not brilliantly well placed, but he does have teammates from Mayola who would actually like to just get something out of the day. At least he's making us talk about him. Meanwhile, we had a very brief look there. It was almost a snapshot, wasn't it, of Parasini, who might want to get something more out of this race. He already had a stunning finale, getting it's only 250 metres now, and Yola Kometa fully committed for Elik Vetter.
Yeah. I love the way that you say that so that it rhymes.
It was purely accidental. Andrew Mobile, of course, have got had Turk up in the front group. We're down to 4, as you can see, and still they push on. Won't be exactly throwing to the line here because there's no bonus seconds or anything else up for grabs, save for the bell, which they will take with a margin of 36 seconds. I kind of feel sorry for them.
Yeah. You have to think that they're just being kind of left out there to dangle at the moment, and even though they're playing "We Will Rock You," you kind of know that their time's up. You see, there's a bit of a mad dash from behind.
Aberastori and Little Trek, perhaps for them, would like a stage win. They take that corner beautifully, I must say, with a margin of 27 seconds. It says just about to hit the line to take the bell, which will announce the last lap of the race here. And here come, well, everybody, quite frankly. Bahrain victorious. I'm sure that Matej Mohoric would quite like to have something out of this, but I think it's Govetska who is their man today. He's their chosen sprinter, so Nico Barati will be leading him out. The bell already sounding, and the hoardings here drowning out the sound of La Mattina as they hit it right now. And everyone else coming through to get something out of the day. Tobias Lund wants a good finish in the blue jersey. Thank you very much. He'd quite like to hold on to that. Why not? So DSM are doing a good job here as they cross the line right now. 15 seconds only it is. 14, in fact, is the gap. It's curtains for the break. 4.6 kilometres remaining only of this Crow race. It's been a terrific race, I must say. We've had some grandstand finishes. Had some quiet moments through the countryside, but lots to look at as well. And just look at Alexander Krysov. He would like a stage win, thank you very much. He hasn't had one in this race, and he's been very close without the cigar. There is just got to be 2 left. Already saying goodbye is Martin Pedersen, the Dane, who was part of it for Lidl Trek. So 3 remain. It'll be handshakes for them fairly soon. They hold a margin as declared of 25 seconds. They may well have been able to kick on. Stedman just hangs an arm out and says, you come through, my friend. Matthias Kostanski it is from Vosta ATS, who does indeed come through. They're sharing the duties nicely, but there's a lot of fresher legs behind that have been spending much of the day hiding themselves for the wind, and now they're going to put their nose into it.
Yeah, they are, and in 4 minutes' time, roughly, we're going to know who's won this edition of the Tour Croatia. That you could see that the break just fell apart on that tiny rise, so the end is nigh for them.
It is, but the end will be nice for Alain if he gets there. DSM spearing through. There's the blue jersey. You can also see coming up Jaco. This will be for Campbell Stewart. May well go solo, and if he wants to do that, Tobias Lund is the wheel to follow. Let's see. A good finish by Campbell Stewart would not be a surprise today. The last 3 standing. It is Gamper of Santic. We have Stedman of Q365. The South African champion, and indeed Vosta of ATS is here. Costani of Vosta ATS, I beg your pardon. So they're split one side of the road and the other. That's often a problem when we are on approach. 3.2 kilometres to go. Not going to be too much of a problem right now, but here we are. It's the big turn at the bottom of our circuit here. More compression required from those who are chasing on. That looked like some skirted and skimmed the barriers there with their elbows. And our breakaway just about to be tagged here. They're being automatically caught. If there was a combativity award, it would have to go to Travis Steadman, the South African. He's kicked on at the moment. Sheffield is also setting the pace.
Yeah.
Looks like he's got Tarling there on his back wheel, looking to see where is Ethan Hayter, as Plapp guides Hayter up right now, the Australian champion with the golden shoulders. And in fact, the entire Ineos team are here to make sure Hayter gets a good finish. He sits his 7 seconds in arrears of Aular. Where is the red jersey of Aular? He's on the back wheel, of course, of Ethan Hayter. He's got his lead-out man as well, Yuri Leitao, absolutely there. There's a lot of skirmishing. Centre of the road is a place where those who are setting the pace drift into, but DSM have gone on a flyer on the left-hand side of the road. You'll see it in a moment. Just heading things for now. There is number 11, Ethan Hayter. He's the protected rider. Viviani is acting as sweeper just behind him. As number 47, Postelberger tries to come up and make a nuisance of himself. We're looking for, that is Postelberger now has on his wheel Campbell Stewart, who's in the frame. Centre of the road to play with. Come and join the party if you want to, and Kyra Rao will probably fold into that void. It's others that do precisely that, as Q365 in their silver also come and make a nuisance of themselves. Here we are. 97, there is Alexander Kristov, who has found some space, and it's they that spear up the middle. Looking for the red jersey, can't see it on this shot just for now, but it'll be off the back of the Ineos train. I believe that's where they are going to be most comfortable. And Mate Mohoric is bringing up here Burati, and I think on the back of Burati is Govetska for Bahrain Victorious. But centre of the road getting very busy as well. This is Timton Teutenberg for Lidl Trek, wants to get something out of this race. And Parasini's men as well are also skirmishing. There is Parasini himself, just divorced for the time being. In fact, Parasini is following Christoph's wheels. Here we go. Flamme Rouge has been seen. We've got a double turn, don't forget, before we actually come back down the other side. Positioning absolutely vital at a moment like this. No sign of Aular at the moment. Still eating into this one. Parasini has got Corey Davis leading him out. Meanwhile, Campbell Stewart hasn't lit it up just yet. Double phase turn to come. Christoph is going solo, and there is the red jersey. Big hamper on the brakes there for Aular. Gets onto the back wheel of Alexander Christoph. That's a good wheel for him to follow. Christoph is going to try and get a stage win out of here, and Aular knows this, wants to stay with him. Aular wrestling with it, as you can see in the red jersey. Christoph is about to be released. His aero helmet is absolutely where it needs to be. Parasini, and we've got a crash, and it's the red jersey's gone down. That's Aular, I'm afraid. And so it's up for grabs out front with bonus seconds. He'll get the same finish, but bonuses could count for an awful lot. Oh, and here we are. It had to be coming through. Stewart gets there, but where did Christoph finish? That's in second place. That's 6 bonus seconds for him. That's not going to be enough for Christoph, who was at 9 bonus seconds, and I believe Aular has done enough. We will see where Hayter finishes. Great finish there for Campbell Stewart. On the deck was Aular. I think Campbell Stewart has just denied Christoph his stage win here, and the maths will indeed factor out, but I think Aular may well have held on here because of a crash in the last 3 for our leader. Wow.
Yeah, as predicted, you know, that quite often that type of finish produces a few waves in the peloton by people kind of only capable of following a sprinter's wheel, and unfortunately Aular's been taken out on the left-hand side of the road there. But he's been saved by Campbell Stewart coming over the top of Alexander Christoph in those last 50 metres. So, Rex were thinking they were going to take it, and then suddenly Jake will pop up with him, Campbell Stewart, and take the win. It looks like they've taken the overall win. So, at the end of the day, it looks like Aular's not too badly injured. But there was a dodgy moment there where one of the other riders had to kind of jump over his body, so that was quite an impressive thing to see.
Oh, Aular, bruised but unbowed. He should come to our podium as our winner. Alexander Christoph, had he got the 10 bonus seconds at the last, he would have vaulted and stolen the race. But the finish of Campbell Stewart for Jaco Alula was enough to win the day. So I believe that Aular is our champion.
Yeah, he does, and you can see the little trick there already. They're kind of looking after him, asking him what happened. You imagine there was a number of riders kind of got taken out of that final sprint with the waves that appeared in the peloton. I'm actually surprised that Ralph teammate hasn't given him a bike to finish on, because he's going to have to walk from here to the end.
Seems happy to do so. Let's have a look at the crash here, and a little bit of movement. Oh, and it came from a Bahrain rider. We'll get that in a moment. Let's have a look now. Just watch the movement. Is it untoward? That's the question. I think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, to be fair. Oh, it was a nasty face-on scrape, wasn't it? So I don't think any foul or fake. Oh, there we are.
So I think his gear actually jumped, and his foot's come out, and then it wasn't the fault of anybody else. It's some kind of mechanical issue there. So that's definitely something that happened mechanical, where looks like the gears jumped just when he went for his biggest.
Campbell Stewart took the stage, gets 10 bonus seconds. It's of no consequence. Alexander Kristoff gets 6 bonus seconds for finishing second ahead of Glyvar. Kristoff, had he won the day, would have won the race, but 6 bonus seconds were not enough for him. He was at a 9 seconds deficit. He would have won by 1 second. As it stands, he finishes runner-up to Aolar, who crosses the line now. Wow. It's a tough game, this.
Yeah, and he's finally, his teammate has given up his bike to Venezuelan champion, and allowed him to finish actually on a machine instead of having to walk across the line. So that's good to see.
What a day. And indeed, what a finale. Campbell Stewart takes this last stage as we just dwell on the Croatian National Theatre. I feel like bursting into song, I must admit. But yes, overall, Aolar, because of the late crash, will be given the same time as Campbell Stewart, but without the bonus seconds, which in the end he did not need, because Alexander Kristoff finished second behind Campbell Stewart. Alexander Kristoff will be a little bit fed up.
He will be slightly annoyed, so he moved up he becomes second on GC. But Aluar could have won that stage, and how spectacular would that have been? So we run through it here again. You've got Mati Mohoric, big fight for the last corner. Ineos got swamped. They started slightly too early, didn't have the kind of manpower. And you can see Aluar moving up on the right hand side there.
Had to dab the brakes before they came in here.
Yeah, so he's kind of slightly out of position, but it's not full panic yet. And he's moving up, so he's on them. You can see him following Alexander Kristoff, so he knows the right wheel to be on, and here he's in a good position.
Goes by Kristoff. He's thinking about the victory here, and then it's a gear issue. Watch this. Suddenly, well, he eased up and then pedaled again, and that's where his problems were.
Yeah, you can see there that Campbell Stewart almost got boxed in, but a little bit of elbow movement, and then out he comes, and wins by two bike lengths. So no doubt that he was the fastest in the race.
I think so. We said it earlier when we watched him move on day one to finish in 4th place from about 10th place in the last 100 metres or so. So yeah, the fastest in the race finally gets his just desserts, and the way he sailed by there was absolutely impeccable. Campbell Stewart is more than a prospect. Shouldn't be used only as a lead-out man. He needs to have his fun himself, and today he did. Got the opportunity to take it cleanly. Positioning's been his problem. Whoa, that's still such a nasty look.
Can you look at that jump? Who was that?
I think it was the Slovenian champion.
That was impressive, because to jump that high, in that situation, shows a lot of kind of awareness of what's just happened.
It was Stocek, I believe, champion of Slovakia, I beg your pardon. The finish line here, well, here is Campbell Stewart, and in the end, comfortably. And he's going to be sent a Christmas card, I think, by Aulus Aluar, because winning this day by Campbell Stewart denied Alexander Kristoff the bonus seconds he would have needed to win this race by 1 solitary second.
Yeah, and also I think Tobias Lund wins the points jersey by dint of Alawar not marking any points in this sprint. So
Wow.
there's benefits to everybody here.
Best place for Ineos Grenadiers was Connor Swift, who finished in 17th place. Ethan Hayter, who may have had some options, 20th today. There's the Croatian champion.
So he's the person that we just saw do the impressive bunny hop over a body on the ground.
Oh, was he? I'm not sure. I think it was the Slovakian champion.
I think it was
Stokel, but
it looked like a yellow. Maybe if we see that done.
We'll have another look. Campbell Stewart takes ahead of Christoph Glaivar. Parasini gets a 4th place. Good position for him. Andreessen and Govetska. Lonardi was in 7th place ahead of Timton Teutenberg. Best name in the peloton. Nico Barati and indeed Yuri Leitao, who was up there, having been on lead-out duties for Alawar, who crashed. Alawar coming in bumped and bruised, but given the same time because of the late crash, and in so doing, is our champion. What a great race. This is St Mark's Church we used to climb up to. So we have indeed finished here, and then we've peeled off, gone round the square, and indeed back down into town in the past.
I think there's probably a prettier finish than the one we've just seen, but probably not as maybe not as exciting.
Alawar takes the race by a margin of 3 seconds ahead of Alexander Kristoff. Ethan Hayter finishes 3rd ahead of Magnus Sheffield, Glaivar, Parasini, Baradi, Dinham, Fetter and Pekala. Alawar is our champion, and I'm sure that smile will return to his face by the time he comes up. This is the crash that denied him a back-to-back stage win, which I think was on the cards for him. He'd have had to, of course, beaten that man, Campbell Stewart. I love the fact that Yuri Leitao punched the air and screamed into the ether, seeing the result and knowing that they had taken the title.
Yeah.
Oh dear, party time. Well, there's our old square. Points classification. Alexander Kristoff gets himself a blue jersey. That is Tobias Lund, who misses out by 3 bonus points. Alawar finishes 3rd in this competition. He had owned this jersey and was lending it, but Alexander Kristoff it is that takes a blue jersey. Rapp is our King of the Mountains man, brilliantly so, by just 2 points. Timed it beautifully, took the category 1 stage early yesterday to deny Shuran and Abramson. But Rapp it is that takes that. They were already celebrating within the team. They've got a jersey. How great is that for indeed Team Rinkhoff. Magnus Sheffield wins the Young Riders classification, taking that by a margin of 4 seconds over Glaivar and Burati. So Magnus Sheffield wins the white jersey competition. And overall, we have Orlus Alawar, who is our champion, despite crashing at the last the very fact that Alexander Kristoff was denied the day by Campbell Stewart meant that he didn't get enough bonus seconds to make the steal. He would have won by 1 second, Alexander Kristoff, had he secured the bonus that he needed. He needed all 10 seconds. He'd done the work in the day. He'd already won one intermediate sprint. He must have thought he was going to get there.
Yeah, he must have thought, in this position. Well, he put himself in a good position, but, Alowar's on his case right here.
Yeah.
And he looked like he was fast enough to win. We still can't see where...
It's this back out here that does it.
Yeah, when he stops pedaling, and then he looks like he goes to start again, and something's happening with his chain on the back, and there's that big jump. You see Campbell Stewart just kind of moving Parisini out the way there, and I'm coming through quite easily, actually.
Campbell Stewart must be wondering now how many more of these days he could have won.
Yeah, so if you can
Super
come over
fast.
the top of Alexander Kristoff at that stage in the race, you're fast enough to win other races.
Campbell Stewart takes the day. Olas Alloir wins the race. Ooh, it's hard. Nobody said this was an easy game.
I think there's actually two falls. There's a fall on the left-hand side of the screen there as well. So
Reflected, yeah.
there's been a bit of a wave caused by that fall from the race leader. And Leto could only really celebrate there once he knew that Campbell Stewart had won, because up until
There it is.
up until then he's thinking, we're busted now because Alexander Kristoff's going to take the win.
Yeah, they knew instinctively, Yuri Leitao, that if Kristoff won, then the race was lost, as it was.
I'm not sure Alexander Kristoff taking the points classification is going to be much compensation for the amount of work that Uno X have done throughout the week.
Has been a lot. Kristoff can rest easy. Oh, here we are. Is Campbell?
This was a race saver for you and the team.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying all week. We came here with hopes of me getting a stage, and then also Eddie in the GC. And the GC kind of turned out to be a bit of a sprinter or just an intermediate kind of race. So yeah, we were searching for wins and eventually got there on the last day.
And how did you like your stay in Croatia?
Oh, it's been awesome. I mean, yeah, beautiful coastlines. We've been staying in hotels overlooking the water. So yeah, it's a perfect way, and it's a great way to kind of wrap up the season here in Croatia.
So could we expect your visit?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'll come back maybe on holiday, and then also, definitely come back for this race again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Well, he himself, awesome speed. Campbell Stewart, we've seen that and recognised that throughout this race, and finally he's got the win that he has been looking for, and all credit to him. That's the way the day finished. The fact that Kristoff did not get 10 bonus seconds but got 6 instead. Finishing second, 3 seconds adrift of Aolar, who did cross the line after a nasty crash very late on, for the race champion, Olas Aolar. And I can't tell you how pleased I am for him. He is the 2023 winner of the CRO race by 3 seconds ahead of Alexander Kristoff, Ethan Hayter, who did not contest the sprint, finishing 7 seconds in arrears. Magnus Sheffield finishing 4th, but is our young riders classification winner. Kristoff gets the blue. Rudd gets the King of the Mountains wrap, I beg your pardon. And Aolar is our champion. Wonderful.